Hello, everyone. Tim Wigham here. Privileged to be with you. Thanks to Dr. Karina Ochis for giving me this opportunity to answer your questions relating to my TED Talk. Just a quick background insight for you. So I grew up in Southern Africa and then have moved to and fro the UK most of my life. I was in the Royal Marines in the British military in the 90s. Went back to South Africa, did my MBA, got into consulting, ended up in the energy sector, oil and gas. So moved from South Africa back to the UK in 2012. And then during the pandemic, decided to move the family base back from the UK back to Cape Town in 2022. So I've toed and fro between Southern Africa and the UK all my life. Passionate about working with teams, helping teams unlock their potential, helping teams to strive for high performance. And of course, that involves many things, including leadership, team effectiveness, the right processes, the right team environment. And that's the subject about which I'm most interested and most passionate. How do I know Dr. Karina Ochis, your professor, and I presume teacher of this class? Well, Dr. Ochis is a very highly respected doctor and professor at the Monarch Business School, Switzerland. And indeed, Dr. Karina was on my panel when I had to defend my doctoral research back in September in Stansted in Switzerland. Dr. Ochis is known as one of the brightest and most determined students to have gone through Monarch in recent times. She received a distinction for her doctorate and is also known to have incredibly high standards. And I'm certainly grateful that she was one of 3 panelists with whom I needed to defend my research, because I know it will have improved the quality of my manuscript and the quality of the final product once I've made modifications. And indeed, once I had passed and graduated, Dr. Karina and I were able to have a bit of a laugh and to share our experiences, which include having both done TED Talks, for example, and indeed some of the consulting work where I believe there is some crossover in terms of what we both do. So I'm sure this is just the beginning of many exchanges and perhaps collaborations that I will have with Dr. Karina Ochis, your supervisor and teacher of this HR course. So yeah, without further ado, I will go through the questions that have been sent through. I will answer them very much as a practitioner, as a consultant in the corporate and heavy industry environment when it comes to the idea of mood set and performance climate. But I'll do my best to keep it short and to keep it lighthearted. And what I would say is I would encourage you to connect with me on LinkedIn or on socials. And if you've got further questions, either channel them via Dr. Karina or come to me direct, and I'll do my best to engage with you. So the first question I've got here is, Tim, you have mentioned that making the group happy and satisfied is better in achieving goals. The family journey story, for instance, wouldn't that make someone burnt out, always satisfying others, but never doing what they like? I'd imagine that you'd play your own music at least once during journeys, for instance. So great question. Thank you for that. And great point that's made there. When you're sitting on an aeroplane before a trip, the safety message talks about putting on your own oxygen mask first before putting on the oxygen mask for your children or for others. I think that's a great analogy for this. If one doesn't look after one's own energy, mood, health, wellness, and balance, then we are of little use helping other team members in a team environment or other family members in a family environment. So I think it's a good point, well made. If you're on a car journey, I would definitely say that in the playlist, For those in the car, you should definitely have some songs that you've selected for yourself because you are a member of that team. You may also be the leader of that team, in which case it's critical that you're serving the team and playing their music as well to stay on the analogy. But I would absolutely agree with that question and that point that some of the songs in that playlist should be songs that you have selected. Otherwise, there is a risk of burnout if you're only ever serving the rest of the team at the expense of your own mood, your own energy, and your own sense of balance. The next question, Tim, is it true that both collective mood and collective mind are important? Why wouldn't collective mood be more important than the collective mind, or mood set and mindset, as I call it, considering that happy people tend to reach a common goal easier, in other words, having a common mind? What if a group has a common goal, but their mood is grumpy? So, good question, good observation. What I said in my TED talk is that collective mood or mood set is as important as collective mindset. I think that mindset is important. What I would categorize as mindset is leadership, shared vision, goal setting, objectives, and basically making sure that everyone in the organization or the team has a shared determination to achieve those goals and objectives. So that's mindset, which is very, very important. It's critical, in fact. However, what I said was that mood set, based on my research, mood set is as important as mindset. In other words, you might have that mindset, but if the team climate, the team environment, and the team mood, or the sense that the team genuinely have psychological safety as well as purpose, then it's unlikely that team will be able to achieve and sustain a level of high performance. So mood set and mindset, in my mind, are equally important. But I take the point that's very well made in that question, which is that one could argue that mindset is more important because, that mood set is more important because you could have the brightest minds theoretically all aligned behind the vision, goals, and objectives. But if everyone's grumpy and walking on eggshells around each other, afraid to ask questions or to collaborate, then that team is absolutely unlikely to achieve their objectives and to work well together. So it is a good point, and it's probably one of those topics where each person would have their own opinion regarding whether mood set is more important than mindset or vice versa. My view is that they're equally important, but perhaps go and do your own research and critical reflection on this to decide perhaps for yourself whether mood set comes before mindset or mindset comes before mood set, or indeed if they come together, how they can best be woven together. So back at you, a little bit of a challenge for you guys to consider that, particularly if you're going on to support organizations and teams in an HR capacity. So great question. Next one is, Tim, how would someone control their mood so it would be worth spreading, considering someone is burnt out and tired? Another good question. I think the importance of that question, or some of the words used there, we talk about controlling the controllables. So many people waste lots of time complaining about events that are outside their control. Good advice, with which Dr. Karina would probably agree, is to focus in on what you can control within your own life. So that would be the classic things like sleep, nutrition, exercise, learning, reading, where you focus your time and attention, key relationships, key endeavors to make you a better, more impactful person. So I think controlling the controllables that will positively influence your own mood would be a great start. If you're burnt out and tired, I would suggest that your own mood is going to struggle, and therefore there's some adjustment required in your own disciplines and habits and schedule in order to address that, such that you bring your own mood up to a level where you can positively influence others. So I think the question there builds on some of the previous points made, which is that it's difficult if you're burnt out and tired to bring the energy and positivity necessary to influence others. And therefore, putting on your own oxygen mask, looking after yourself is the best way to be an influencing and positive leader of others. So again, we can't underestimate the importance of looking after our own health and well-being, and indeed our own improvement as an individual in order to influence others. Next question, have you experienced moments where someone else's mood dramatically impacted your own behavior or mindset? What was that like? I would say that in a family environment, this is probably the most relevant and relatable for all of us. It's a great question. And if you think about it, in a family environment, whether when you were a child, if you think about with your mother and father and siblings, or at this stage, whether you have a partner or live with friends, or even in a learning environment as students, dare I say it, if Dr. Karina is in a bad mood or is having a bad day or is frustrated with someone in the class, that will influence and impact everyone in the class. People will be on edge. People will be aware that perhaps they have done something wrong or not perhaps performed to a level of expectation. So yeah, family environment or student environment, I think we can all relate to when someone in a position of power or a position of leadership is not having a good day, looks unhappy, and perhaps uses language that indicates that they are unhappy. That would be an example of someone else's mood dramatically impacting your behavior and your mindset and indeed your own mood set. So if you are in a family where there is a very hot-headed or somewhat angry father or mother, and you're growing up in that household, the mood that they take, say they are upset, angry, frustrated, shouting, that will impact your behavior in that you will not want to be around them too much. And it would also impact your mindset regarding whether or not you want your own family, for example, or indeed how you would do differently, or how you would behave differently with your family in the future. So that's an example of perhaps how someone else's mood would dramatically impact your behavior and or your mindset looking ahead. How can leaders balance being focused and goal-oriented with fostering a positive, approachable mood? Well, I think there's a way of dovetailing those 2 points in together. So if a leader was trying to make sure that their team was focused and goal-oriented on the agreed goals, the way that that session is managed and those goals are shared could integrate the right attitude, language, and the way the team feels when they are being given those goals. So creating the conditions for a sense of exuberance, excitement, enthusiasm for the mission and for the goals that are being set out would definitely be a way of sharing mindset and mood set and sharing focused goals in such a way that it's positive and makes the team feel excited. Hopefully you can all relate to what I'm saying there. And I'm sure Dr. Karina does this with you in the class. Perhaps giving you a project or a submission that needs to be delivered, but also does it in a way that makes you excited about going ahead with that initiative. So hopefully that helps there. Next question: do you believe that having someone you always looked up to believe in you can make it more likely for you to succeed? I absolutely agree with that and believe that. Having a mentor, having a role model, having someone in whose footsteps you can follow can absolutely help you succeed and achieve that success quicker than if you didn't have a mentor and a role model. So I absolutely agree with that question and statement. And I do believe that if you can surround yourself by excellent people, you have a much greater chance of achieving success in life. So that is a great point, and it can't be emphasized enough. Surround yourself by quality people who raise your game and challenge you to be better, just like Dr. Karina did with my defense, challenging me to be a better researcher, a more critical thinker, and a greater contributor through my work to those with whom I interface going forward. So find excellent role models, excellent mentors, spend as much time with them or reading about them as you can. That will undoubtedly increase your chance of being successful. I'll take one more question here. So we've got, why did the offshore team not report to their supervisors their feelings about the treatment received by the new onshore leader? This is an excellent question to finish on. We probably all intuitively know the answer to that, and that is that they were probably scared. They were probably scared of asking questions about the new onshore leader because they would be worried that they might lose their job, that they might be bullied individually themselves by the new leader. Perhaps they would have been worried that they would have been replaced, moved to another rig, moved to another asset. So, and maybe they were just intimidated by either that particular onshore leader or other leaders from the company. There is lots of ego in the heavy industry environment, and many leaders are not trained, well, not selected, trained, mentored, coached, and supported in the way that they should be. So, and this was one of the findings from my research, was that there is an assumption that leaders in the heavy industry environment, and I'm sure many other environments, are already equipped with the attitude, the mindset, the mood set, the skill set to be great leaders for others. But unfortunately, that is not always the case. We cannot take for granted that leaders in key positions are well selected and well prepared. In many cases, unfortunately, they are not. So that is something to take forward on your HR journey. The selection, preparation, training, mentoring, coaching, and ongoing development of leaders in an organization is arguably one of the most important contributing factors to that organization's success. And it alarms me the extent to which that is overlooked in many, many work environments. Certainly in the energy sector, where I conducted my research in the North Sea, it came through as a very strong, consistent theme that leaders on oil and gas rigs and in the oil and gas environment do not necessarily live up to the standard that should be expected of them by those energy companies. Okay, guys, I'm going to end it there, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I really appreciate this opportunity to contribute. Thank you for watching my TED Talk. I hope you enjoyed it. I look forward to perhaps watching your TED Talks one day. And I look forward to any further feedback from Dr. Karina on your behalf in terms of any follow-up questions. All the very best of success going forward, and thanks again. Cheers.